You are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman, exclusively on ABC Amber TV.
Mutumbu, mama yo, na ya boy go get her. Blue Jay Brothers. Mama you kind, mama you're beautiful, mama you good, mama you're wonderful. No woman like you, mama. No woman like you, mama. Thank God for you, mama. Thank God for you, mama. 'Cause you gave me life, oh mama. Queen of my life, oh mama. I go love you for life, oh mama. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama. From small begin, I never forget all the suffer when you suffer for me. Oh yeah, yeah. All the pain and the troubles where I put you through. I remember when money no be day and chop no be day for her. You be the try your best. You go run around to find us something where we go chop. When I dey sick, you know the sleep. You go dey cry all night. You go hold me tight, start to pray, say God make you help my oh Lord. Ooh, I wo yeah yeah chama. I funga na better yeah funga chama. I'm bombing na better yeah bomba chama. Inga na chinu yeah ga chama. Mama, I wo yeah yeah chama. I funga na better yeah funga chama. I'm bombing na better yeah bomba chama. Inga na chinu yeah ga chama. Inga chama mama. Inga na chinu yeah ga chama. Chinu yeah ga chama. Oh, you gave me life, oh mama. Queen of my life, oh mama. I go love you for life, oh mama. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama. You're my motivation. You gave me the best education, mama. The song where I sing I'm for you. Now it's special dedication to you. Oh yeah. I know say every night and day you pray say make a mama. The God where you the pray I'm for heaven. Don't give me this inspiration, mama. The song where I sing I'm for you. Now to show my appreciation to you. Who be a warrior yeah chama. I funga na better yeah funga chama. I'm bombing na better yeah bomba chama. Inga na chinum yeah ga chama. Mama warrior yeah chama. I funga na better yeah funga chama. I'm bombing na better yeah bomba chama. Inga na chinum yeah ga chama. Chinum yeah ga chama. Chinum yeah ga chama. Chinum yeah ga chama. You gave me life, oh mama. Queen of my life, queen of my life. I will love you for life. I will love you for life. 'Cause you love me so, mama. You gave me life, mama. Queen of my life, mama. I will love you for life, oh mama. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama, mama. Selelelele, ale 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 mama. Ah, that's so. That's so. Mother's Day. That's so.
Our vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amber TV Club member. A cappella, Latest Nigerian stroke African movies, global politics, ABC Amber News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amber News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, inter-intro-governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG, and People of Ambazonia's position, the Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASC. Health is Wealth, Health Education and Awareness within the Ambazonian community with Dr. Yaya. Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Mba. Our Freedom, spiritual awareness and education for the Ambazonian community with Pastor Victor Mba and Pastor Commando. Church and Politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando. The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey. Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. Ethics for an Emerging Nation, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amber Focus, only on ABC Amber Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambertv.com/subscribe. Payment method: www.abcambertv.com/donate. ABC Amber TV payment channels: Cash App 202-650-2216, Zelle 240-486-8768, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. PayPal donations at abcambertv.com. For more details, call +124 028 43 111. You can email us at info@abcambertv.com. Payment method: www.abcambertv.com/donate. ABC Amber TV.
Hello, everyone. This is the Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman. Welcome to this episode, June 2nd, 2023. We have a great show planned for you today, and I am Max Abiedu, host for today's session. We have two guests today, Dr. Fred Lobadi and Dr. Fonye Yaya, who will be joining us momentarily. The topics today are dear to my heart. The first one has to do with the recent alleged kidnapping of 30 women in Babanki. That will be a topic that we have to talk about so we understand what is happening in this, our liberation quest. The second topic has to do with the moderator of the Presbyterian Church of Cameroon, Reverend Samuel Fonke. Is he a determined adversary of Ambazonia and an ally to La République du Cameroon or not? We'll find out by the end of today's The Horizon discussions. And finally, we have great news in the horizon. And I don't mean the show The Horizon, I mean great news coming up. On the 23rd of June, the youth cultural event in Berlin is being planned, on the 3rd of June of this year. That's tomorrow, to be honest with you. So someone will be on the show to talk about that event, what is expected, and what you can do to make it a success. I want to greet everyone watching all over the diaspora. I want to greet especially our friends, our families watching from the home front, from ground one. And the theme of the horizon is we are staying the course. We are here because you are there. And we pray that this journey to Buea will be shorter than it is so far. Without much ado, I want to invite one of our guests today, Dr. Fred Lobadi, to say a word, to greet the people, and then we'll start the program. Dr. Lobadi, welcome to The Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be with you in this program. This is my first time of coming, and I hope we'll be able to have a fruitful discussion. I greet everybody.
Doc, I will correct you before you continue. This is your second time of coming. You were here to talk about the health of the heart health program, which you were fantastic.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yes. Thank you. I just greet everybody and wish us well. I think we'll have a fruitful discussion. We want to know the truth and not the deception that is put out there either by La Republique or other agents used by La Republique. So we'll be able to put that truth out.
Thank you so much. Our second guest, Dr. Yaya, as soon as she joins in, as soon as I see her on the screen, I will let her greet the people. But for now, we'll start the program without her. The first topic is the story behind the alleged kidnapping of 30 women in Babanki. I think a good place to start will maybe to see the video that most of us have already seen on the social media platforms, on different fora. If that video is available, we want to see it. And this event happened this last month. We are now in June. Here we go.
Chris woman, they just woke up for this morning time, 19th of May 2023, where they just woke up, pick stick them. After
the one match, they no one amber again.
They no one amber. After a serious gunshot, we receive them for night. Under stress, we never sleep. They don't break for morning time. We instead see them for street, we walk and stick them. When I hold on and stick them up. Now hold on and stick them.
When they woke up, come out today, say the one match, say they no one amber again. So say all stress will be the go through yesterday, so all the mommy the way they should don't fear, so they be know.
They are against you. Pick that stick
They
up.
be against you. Now all that stick them that way they be carry and bring them for corner we so. And them that way they say they no want them, say they no want amber again. Now look all the faces them. Any place where una see the faces them, una know say na black like them that way una they see them so. All the crazy mommy the way they fear so. They get small wish we rewarded them. They come out say they want fight amber. They don't know how to fight amber. The whole government don't try to fight amber. No pass na the crazy mommy they will come out say they want can't fight amber. Then at them this would already capture them. Place where then they so no nothing where they wait them. Whether not die when I wait to. Only God could save them, but no man if he save them away then they so. Not only die they with them. And I chef this shit down for here so. Show them your face for here. And I chef this shit down for here so. Now he gather all the crew there so.
Thank you so much for putting that video on. It doesn't give me any pleasure showing this video, but I want to say this. I want to read this brief statement that the Department of Women's Service wrote in response to this. The Department of Women's Service of the Interim Government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia vehemently condemns the arrest of 30 women in Babanki, allegedly by Amber Boys. Some of these women are mothers, and such an action is criminal, and such an action is criminal and detestable. We have learned that these women have been released, although some of them are being treated for injuries sustained during their detention. The women of the IG have all these women in their prayers. I'll end here for now, Doc, and let's talk about this video briefly. Again, we want to say that these are women, these are our mothers, these are our sisters, that we do not condone such an action. But let me take this step by step. Doc, this activity, this event happened on the 19th of May, which was the day that we had lockdown with reference to 20th May. Let's start with that. Why do you think that happened on that day?
Okay, so first of all, we feel very sorry for what happened to our mothers and our sisters there, our aunts. And just like in any other serious tragedy within the nation of Ambazonia or the people of the former British Southern Cameroon, all the bad things that have happened to the different communities, we feel very sad and sorry for all those who are suffering for no fault of theirs. Basically, what is going on here is that you have local allies, so-called allies. Those are local people who are maybe still employed by La République du Cameroon, or they have business activities and they want to be in favor with Yaoundé so that they can be successful for themselves. And these individuals don't lack food. So they are overzealous and decide to collaborate with La République du Cameroon to find ways of tarnishing the image of the genuine people of the Southern Cameroon that are seeking for freedom from the oppressive actions of La République du Cameroon. These individuals literally hatched out this plan. And in collaboration with La République, they carried it out. So this is not something by, say, Ambazonian boys that are genuinely asking for independence from La République du Cameroon that decided to go and arrest mothers. So as they planned this, they decided to do it around the 20th of May so that it will have an impact on the nation and international community, because La République has been doing everything to have the international community tag the Ambazonian separatists, as they call them, as terrorists. Unfortunately for them, nobody is buying the story. So they're in their foolish minds trying everything possible to keep attempting to tarnish their image, make them appear like some bad people who are acting in a stupid way, and that they are the ones who came and arrested these innocent grandmothers. Sometimes these so-called allies, in collaboration with Yaoundé, they go and convince some of these women to work with them to stage what you saw there. So I believe that some of those mothers were collaborating with La République and they knew what they were doing to present this. And then those so-called people who arrested them are literally working with La République. And the purpose of it was to tarnish the image of the genuine people of the former British Southern Cameroon who are asking for total separation from La République du Cameroon. Now, people do not need to be confused about what's going on. The problem with the Southern Cameroon has always been about the resources and the money within Southern Cameroon. Even if you go back into history, before we acquired our independence, I'm sorry, I didn't want to take you there. The former British Southern Cameroon was producing more than the Northern Cameroons and was sponsoring economic activity in the Northern Cameroons. The British wanted to keep us, but because of the discussions that were going on when they realized that we are going to join La République du Cameroon, they went behind the scenes and negotiated a money exchange with the French, so that if we, in the so-called plebiscite, voted to join La République du Cameroon, the British were given money for their investments and they can go. And so the French believe that they own us and control us through La République du Cameroon. Now, La République du Cameroon knows that just the former British Southern Cameroon finances over 60% of the gross domestic product of the country, all the resources that provide money for them. Not only the oil that people keep talking about, there are so many others. They come more from the former British Southern Cameroon. The French Cameroon does not contribute any significant amount, not up to 40%. So they don't want to let us go because of those resources. That is what it's all about. Instead of carrying out projects that will keep the people happy and so that the majority of the people will be satisfied with their lifestyles and the necessary activities that they undertake to take care of their families, La Republique would rather spend a lot of money, to control, oppress these people in a despotic means and tell lies about them and fabricate stories. There is no treaty of union that binds us to them. They cannot present that in a court of law. And so they have tried everything possible to claim that they own us, which they don't. They know that the people have vomited them or thrown them out, which we did on September 22nd of 2017, as well as October 1 of 2017. And they are doing everything possible to try to convince the international community not to sympathize with us and think that we are just terrorists. And they go around taking that money that they have confiscated from us and literally owned by one family, Bia and his family. They use it to bribe some of these so-called agents that can do anything possible to keep us with them. And so they are using those people who have some employment with the government, those people who do economic activities, who are members of their political parties, they indoctrinate them and then use them to tarnish our image. Now, when the liberation struggle was going on and was very strong, they decided now to come back now and buy our innocent boys to give them bribes, to collaborate with them, not only in the mainland, but even in the diaspora, give them bribes to collaborate with them so that we will not separate. And the reason they do not want us to separate is because of those resources. They do not love the people of the former British Cameroon. They would prefer for each one of them to die so that they can keep the land and the resources. So don't listen to Yaoundé. So what I think happened with Babanki is that there are some local elites that collaborated with La Republique to hatch out this program around May 20th. And then they indoctrinated some women to think that they are working with them. They don't like what they call Amber people and what they are doing. And actually, the people who cause trouble are collaborators of La Republique du Cameroun. And I hear that the military sometimes dresses up as Amber boys to pretend that they are Amber boys, and vice versa. And they are the people who go around disturbing the spirit and the souls of our people so that they get tired and give up. And when they give up, La Republique continues with looting our resources. I think it's the local elites in collaboration with La Republique that did all what happened there in Babanki.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because it's just difficult to understand how our ARFs will have the logistics to be able to carry such an activity without military being in the wind of it and stopping them. It's not easy to go ahead and arrest 30 women without the military not knowing and stopping you. So this is definitely the work of collaboration between the unidentified people that we don't know, that definitely are not affiliated with our struggle, our genuine struggle for liberation, but people that are there to make us look bad in the eyes of the international community, as you've clearly stated, and people that are working with La Republique du Cameroun to prevent us from having ghost towns that are effective to stop their fake 20th May that they were planning to celebrate. That was probably the most important reason why they chose that day to carry out such an activity. And it's very possible, Doc, that some of the women that were involved in this, or some of the mothers that were involved in this, may have known in advance that that was a planned activity. It's possible that some of them were just picked up with others on the same day without knowing what was going on. But it was definitely a planned event to take place on that particular day. And the women that were involved, some of them knew exactly what was happening. Because it's just difficult to see that you would just pick up 30 women at random to do something like this. Let's also remember, Doc, that our ARFs have mothers. Our ARFs have mothers. And some of these moms have lost children because of this, our struggle for liberation. Some of these moms were there on that September 22nd, 2017 and October 1st, 2017 with peace plans, walking on the street saying that we want to free our country. Our sons and daughters have suffered enough. We want freedom. These mothers have not relented. They still want that freedom, the genuine mothers. So all this happening around May 20th to set us back is the work of the enemy, is the work of La République du Cameroun. And we remember that we're going to be going to the next topic soon, but we remember that there have been other incidents where things have happened by La République du Cameroun. For example, Doc, the kidnapping of students from PSS Mancon in 2021. And that was allegedly by Amber Boys or separatists, and it ended up being La République du Cameroun. I don't know whether you want to shed some light on that particular event.
Correct. So taking it back still to the issue of Babanki, I've talked to reliable people who were going from Bamenda to Mbingo Hospital, because when you leave Bamenda to Mbingo Hospital, you pass through Babanki, big Babanki, not the small one, for treatment. And this is what happened. That was just after these so-called women had been picked up and La République pretending to be looking for their freedom and freeing them. You would imagine that they will have a lot of military activity around that stretch of road through Babanki. And what happened is, as these patients were going to Mbingo Hospital, they were stopped. They had so many stops, so many military. They were stopped in one place by the army. As usual, they extorted money from each individual in the vehicle plus the driver, as they usually do. And then less than a mile from where the army was, you also had a group of what they called Amber Boys doing the same thing, asking 1,000 from each passenger within the vehicle and 3,000 from the driver. And when these patients complained that they were going to hospital and they needed money to pay for their bills, they said they don't care, because when they go to the hospital, they will pay for money. But what I want to bring out here is, how can such an acute event, something that just happened, and the military is hot about it, the army has infiltrated Big Babanki from Bangui, right through to Big Babanki. They are everywhere. And just a mile from, on the same stretch of road that the army is extorting money from people, the so-called Amber Boys are also taking money from people. They don't feel threatened by the army, and the army is not going after them. These are people who are working together. So those so-called Amber Boys that were extorting money from people are not honest, sincere children who are seeking for their freedom. I know there's been poverty because the economic activity has gone down, but these were not honest, sincere children who wanted to extort money from people just to buy some food. And they cannot be adversaries of the so-called army, and they are operating 1 mile away, less than a mile, and the army is doing nothing about it. And the army is supposed to be everywhere, and the army does not pick them up. So that is a clear example that those so-called Amber Boys are collaborating with the army to basically break down the spirit of the population, make them feel so frustrated that they give up their desire to be free from La République du Cameroun, and to think that La République is helping them or is better than the so-called Amber Boys. That is a clear example. You've seen many places, like when you leave Bamenda and you're going towards Batibo, you have over 20 stops or more on the road. And the army extorts money from people and tells them that when you go down less than another mile, you will meet your brothers. That's what they tell these people in the vehicle, also make sure that you give their own portion of the money. If you also want to know that they are collaborating, when Mrs. Mundi, who is a senator, was picked up from Bamenda with a vehicle and carried, say, to Batibo, just from Bamenda to Batibo, which is not a long distance, you had over 20 stops. And the military stops every vehicle and checks everybody who is in the car. You cannot imagine that Mrs. Mundi will be picked up in her car with her driver, and they drive through those 20 stops and arrive at a so-called amber camp where nobody knows where they are for as long as she was supposed to have been lost before she eventually emerges. That just tells you that it was a planned project from Yaoundé, and the so-called military on the road and the so-called Amber boys on the road were collaborating according to the plan that had been given to them. You cannot abduct somebody from Bamenda and drive through over 20 military checkpoints right through to your destination and nothing happens to you. That is just an example that when you see those individuals that are operating freely and the army is not far from them, they are together and they inter-exchange. Some of those military go and remove their military uniforms and dress like Amber boys and stand there and extort people because they work together. They are together. Those are not our people. Our people do not, honest, sincere people, do not go around maltreating and torturing our people. When you see them, it's La République du Cameroon. That's how I would describe that.
Yes, our people do not go around torturing, our ARFs do not go around torturing our people. So that brings me to this point, Doc. This interim government has a structure, defending homeland LGA by LGA, county by county. And we also have the federal government that is so dedicated in raising funds to support our ARFs. That is the only structure out there that really has a machinery going on for money raising. If you think about the others who claim to be leaders in this liberation quest, I do not want to call the names, but I will probably do that for distinction's sake. You have the people that call themselves comrades or president. You have the one that was made a president and then suddenly became not the president. I'm talking about Marianta. I don't know what she's doing these days. You have the one that we know is a criminal, Cho Ayaba, from the get-go, has always been a criminal, will always be a criminal, will die a criminal. Well, I shouldn't say will die a criminal. Sometimes people can repent and change. We don't know. Then we have the John Baakurus, the Yeremia Sisuku, and all the like. Let's be realistic. Have we, people out there watching, these other people that I've mentioned do not have any program, any plans like the interim government to raise funds? You've seen how we've done drafts over the years for our counties, for our LGAs, for the federal government, how money comes into these structures that we have. And that's how we use the money to give to our genuine fighters to defend homeland. These other structures do not have, these other people that claim that they want to liberate Amazonia do not have those great structures in place. So they resort to manipulating our people and making our people suffer instead of really be part of the process. So, Doc, I'm talking about the fact that these people that carry out kidnapping for ransom or carry out extortion and all the like do not belong to a government. How can you address that briefly, please?
Great. So again, it comes back to the plan that I mentioned. That means these are people that have been bought off by La République du Cameroon to collaborate with them and cause confusion among the Amazonians. It does not matter who they are and what their names are. La République has always had a strategy to buy individuals that will work with them, deceive our people in order to continually extort our money. And this attitude was learned from the French. The French did that. That is, if you just go into international politics, whenever you hear that a French individual was kidnapped somewhere around the world, maybe in the Arab world, you will hear that the French went and negotiated a release by giving some money and release for the release of their individuals. While on the other hand, if you take the United States, and I'm not trying to say America is better than France, I'm just giving you as an example. The United States will say they will never give any money for release of their whoever was captured, whether it was a journalist or a military person. And they will continue diplomatically until one day you will hear that America eventually got a person released. Whether America gave money or not, but you hardly ever hear that America exchanged money for release of their agents. With the French, they talk of negotiation, and negotiation for them includes giving money in exchange. That means bribery. Destroy what is correct by exchanging money. They have done this with us. So when we acquired our independence and they discovered that West or Cameroon or former British Southern Cameroon is very resourceful and rich, they decided to destroy all our infrastructures, and they found one person they bought, who was Solomon Tandeng Muna and his family. And at the time, we did not have all this information we have today. We did not have social media. We didn't have Facebook and so many things. So people believed that Solomon Tandeng Muna was serving the interests of our people, but he was not. The people who stood up for our interests, like Joa, they got them out, even killed them, poisoning, while they maintained the so-called Tandeng Muna in there. And then we thought that he was serving us, but he was rather working with them. With time, when Tandeng Muna was eventually removed from office around 1995, he joined Foncha, who had been pushed out of government, to go to the UN to complain that something is wrong, but it was already after the fact. Now, come back to our situation. All throughout time, if you go through the time of the SDF, they went and bought individuals within the SDF to destroy the SDF. With time, they have succeeded to even buy Frundi himself and destroy that momentum that Frundi had. So too in our struggle that emerged, as we said in 2017, they have done everything to buy off individuals. So when they had difficulties because our leadership was not in the homeland, so for example, when Dinka started in the 1980s, he was in the homeland. So they locked him up. Eventually, he managed, by the grace of God, to escape, and he is abroad. But when our struggle started, the leadership eventually ran away into the diaspora. So La Republique was doing everything to get that leadership and kill it. And in collaboration with the French, and I say so because if you remember, this Macron went to Nigeria shortly before Nigeria picked up our Naira 10. If you guys remember carefully, I think that Macron went to Nigeria, spoke with the Nigerian government to collaborate with La Republique to make sure that they pick the leadership of Ambazona that was in Nigeria. And that's why the Nigerian Secret Service collaborated with La Republique to pick up the Naira 10. Now, you can argue why Sisiku Ayub never told the others why they were meeting in that hotel, but that was a program that was hatched in collaboration with the Nigerian government and the Cameroon Secret Service, even though today Banqui will say he was such a special intelligence secret service officer, but Macron went to facilitate that. So when they carried our people to Nkondengi, as you know, with time, they have tried to negotiate with them and buy them off. Now, but there is a hardcore group that refuses to be bought, that refuses to be bribed, that refuses to be compromised. That is that group that still remained in the diaspora, so that when the Naira 10 was picked up, eventually, as you know, they had a delegation of 3 that was trying to lead. And with time, they picked one person who swore to be the leader based on the Bible, and that is Dr. Saku right now. And La Republique has done everything possible to reach out to him and buy him off. And by the grace of God, I'm a Christian, that's why I say that, they have not succeeded to buy him off. But everybody around him, they have bought. All the so-called other people like Wada Ayabacho used to claim that he was whatever he was and refused to be Ayub Tabe's Minister of Defense or Secretary of Defense. They bought him off. All the others, they bought them off. And the person that has been difficult for them to buy has been the president, Dr. Sako. So then they came to his inner core and started buying off people that were collaborating with him. Those are those French groups that splitted off, calling themselves also the true leadership or the interim government. And then now you have somebody like Chris Anu going around calling himself the interim government, so that when Sako's group, which is a hardcore, difficult group to buy, speaks, and Chris Anu is also calling himself the interim government. It confuses the people on the ground because they don't know who is this interim government speaking. That is what La Republique wanted. They wanted confusion among the children of Ambazonia so that they will give up. And so our people need to be able to be smart to know who has been bought off. La Republique has everything they do is just bribery and corruption. And like I said, they learn it from the French. And so they have gone to the land, they've bought off the chiefs, they make the deals go to give the chiefs money every month, calling it their affiliates of the administration, and it's like their salary. So they pay the first class chiefs like 250,000 francs a month, the second class chiefs 200,000 francs a month, the third class chiefs 150,000 francs a month. And it is a DO who goes to give the money. I don't even think the money comes from Yaoundé because they can just extort that on the streets by extorting money from people, put it together and go. So when the DO comes to talk with the chief and is giving the chief money, you already have control over that chief. He will be holding to that deal. That's how they have compromised the chief so that the people think they have a chief, but the chief has been bought off. Then they formed a secret, a special association of chiefs where they meet and talk and harmonize activities all over Cameroon. So most of those our chiefs have been put in there, and so they are no longer serving the interest of the villages that they purport to be representing. Then they also went and also bought off the religious leaders of all the different denominations. What I'm trying to say is that La Republique has focused on buying off people to order to destroy the struggle. The hardcore that has refused to be bribed is the one that they keep trying, they keep struggling hard. If they could get to us, they will get to us. I'm sure they are looking for ways to get to us and they cannot get to us. But I want to give them a news. They can never buy us. The whole universe is not rich enough to buy us off. There's not enough money in the entire universe to buy us. So they should just forget about it. But that is their modus operandi. So when you are talking to somebody or somebody is talking to you, the big question is this somebody who is been bought off? Because many of them are chameleons. You know, chameleons change their color based on the landscape. So when they're in a green grass, they look green. When they're on a brown surface, they look brown. So when they come to talk to us, they pretend to be like Amazonians. They will talk in Pidgin English. They will play even our country music and our country drum. But their goal is to cause confusion among us so that we remain with La Republique. The goal is so we don't leave and they continue extorting our resources. If you want to know the value of that, just the petrol money that has been extracted since they started extracting oil in Limbe has been over $600 billion. Now, I did not say billion francs. I said $1 billion. All of that money has gone into Bia's private pocket. So that when he comes and gives a little $200, 200,000 to our chiefs, or he gives a little like he promised $2 billion to the local religious organizations to use for their schools. Or right now, they give each religious leader of all the religious organizations like 3 million francs a month. That I call it the toes of the chicken. It's like when you prepare a sumptuous meal with a big chicken, somebody is not only eating the gizzard and all the meat, but he goes and takes a scissors and trims off the toes of the nails and gives them to the person who truly owns the chicken. That is what it is about. They cannot let this gold go, and they will do anything possible to kill everybody to keep it. That is basically where it's going. So when anybody is talking to us or people, they need to know, is this somebody who has been bribed and is working with La Republique, or is he a genuine individual seeking for the genuine freedom of our people so that La Republique does not continue to suck all our resources away and impoverish our people and then let us suffer throughout our existence on planet Earth? Basically, that's how I see it. That's how I would describe those individuals. It doesn't matter what their name is. They will keep trying to buy individuals. There are some who may not have been bought who will be bought in the future.
That's right. So we just pray that those of us who are still standing tall, especially our president, that God will give us the wisdom to discern the chameleons that are living amongst us.
Correct.
So that we don't get delayed in this journey. Because all they are doing is delaying us. They are setting us, we're moving 2 steps forward, they're taking us 1 step back. That's all they are doing, because our destination, Boya, is a given. It's based on the truth and justice. It doesn't matter what people are saying in the international community. It doesn't matter what the Anglophones who are on the fence are saying. It doesn't matter even those of us who are tired are saying. The truth always wins. And that's where we are. I'm going to just read briefly the conclusion of this statement. I was hoping that our other guests would have joined so that she can give her own views on this topic before we move to the other topic. So in concluding, I just want to read this end of the letter that or the press statement that the Department of Women's Service wrote on this matter. The Department of Women's Service also, okay, I understand she's on. If Dr. Yaya is on, we're talking about this issue. I don't know if you want to comment on it. Maybe you could be put on the screen, and then I'll read this topic, and then we'll read this letter, and then we'll move to the next topic, which is very, very juicy and meaty. Okay, I'm just going to continue reading. When I say see you on the screen, I will stop. The Department of Women's Service also wants the international community to understand that we are mothers and women fighting to free our children and families from slavery and genocide. We will never condone acts of violence on innocent civilians, especially women. However, it is worth mentioning that over the past 6 years, there have been atrocities committed by La République du Cameroon's Army of Occupation, Atangaji boys, ADF working hand in glove with La République military, and boys released from DDR centers to frame our sons and daughters. We recall the alleged kidnapping of 79 students from PSS Mancon by Amber boys. That turned out to be the work of Cameroon soldiers. We also remember that in September 2022, a church was desecrated in Manfe, and 5 priests and a nun and 3 others were kidnapped, allegedly by Amber boys. That again is another example of people working with the Cameroon government to discredit genuine restoration fighters. Therefore, knowing that our genuine fighters will never assault their mothers, nor do they have the logistics to arrest and brutalize so many women, this is yet another barbaric act committed or sponsored by one of La République du Cameroon's genocidal squads aimed at annihilating Amazonians. The genocidal regimes attempt to manipulate the local population and the international community using some media outlets. We believe that the inability to act against these genocides by holding them accountable for previous massacres and kidnapping for ransom has inspired them to continue their evil schemes to carry on other acts like this. We once more reiterate or call for the immediate intervention from the United Nations by sending an independent fact-finding mission to investigate all massacres and other crimes perpetrated by La République du Cameroon's genocidal military since 2017. And that's the end of that communique. If Dr. Yaya is on, you will probably say something because we have to move to the next topic. I don't see her. So the next topic has to do with someone who responded to this kidnapping of alleged kidnapping of 30 women with a very bitter letter to the directed to the international community, and his name is Reverend Samuel Funky. And I think this is a good place to start for me to read what he wrote. So that people understand where this individual is coming from. And that's why this topic right now is asking, is he an adversary or an ally? Is he an adversary for Southern Cameroon's Amazonia? And we think he is. And we want people to understand why, for being a man of God, he is a disappointment. I'm trying to locate the write-up on my iPad so that it'll be easier to read it, but I'll just go to it on my phone. Doc, if you want to say something briefly about the letter that I just read as I move on to the next topic, that will, my conclusion, your conclusion on that topic.
Yeah, so basically we have already expressed the major points, and our people need to have the wisdom, and you can feel it in your spirit. You don't really need to be very much schooled in school or something. You can tell if somebody is lying. You can tell if somebody is honest and sincere. And if you know that they are lying, don't believe them. For example, you live in La République du Cameroon or in Bazoum. When CRTV tells you that Biya has won elections, don't you know in your spirit that they are lying? When they present the results of what they claim he has won, don't you know that they have lied? So you don't need to have a PhD to figure that out. In the same light, when you deal with these individuals who claim to be for Amazonia or care about us, you can tell that they are lying. And if you know that they are lying, don't believe them. You don't need to go to school. You don't need to have studied much to figure it out. You can tell in your spirit that they are not telling the truth. That's what I would put there.
Welcome, Dr. Yaya. Uh-oh. I welcome you and you disappeared. Oh, there you are. Welcome to the Horizon. We were just ending this topic. We're just ending this topic about the kidnapping of those women. I don't know whether you want to comment briefly before we move to the one that has to do with Reverend Funky.
Okay, thank you so much, Mape. It's always an honor being here on the Horizon, and Dr. Lubati, of course, an honor to be with you as a co-panelist. Yes. Yeah, it's quite
I don't know whether
unfortunate.
you heard. Yeah. No, to help you out,
Yes,
I don't know
did.
whether you
I
heard some
heard
of
you.
the discussion. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, I did. I think I followed what Dr. Lubati said. Again, it's just to add to that. In a struggle like this, we do have the propaganda warfare, and we know that La République, being so desperate, having exhausted, its military capacities, in the sense that, for over 7 years, we have a conventional army fighting against, untrained men and women of honor, and they still are struggling with keeping them on their knees. They've resorted to the propaganda warfare, which is that of, trying to work the communities to go against the struggle. I don't know if you hear me because you all look frozen. Oh, I do.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I think Dr. Lubati touched on that. It's been 7 years of the tricks and mischiefs of this very evil and diabolic regime. And so by now we know them. We know how they smell. We know how they act. We know how they look like. So without a doubt, when we see things like this, I'm not saying that in the revolution we have saints, but because I know that this government, the interim government, does not endorse such atrocious activities, us causing pain, to our own mothers, to our communities, which is the very reason why we, even in the struggle, it is contradictory, it is counterproductive. So those who know their interim government, those who align with their LGAs and their counties, they know for sure that at the level of the defense, I know that for sure about my county because I get updates that our Ambazonian Restoration Forces are educated. They have a code of conduct, and they know that they are supposed to be to work and actually help the community and not work against them. And we have seen a great relationship between the civil societies and our ARFs. And of course, La Republique knows that this is a point where they can come in, and create discord so that the revolution they can discredit this God-ordained revolution and discourage people from supporting this. This is not new. This is not the first revolution whereby you have the creation of, what do I say, counterfeit groups to actually mimic the real group in order to confuse people and actually give it a bad name. So by now, I think the population should know, because if you know a thief looks like a thief, he speaks like a thief, he acts like one, and his actions, speak for themselves. So if people are doubting who is responsible for this action, they should know that the interim government, in so many, occasions, the president says that time and again, in all his outings, he educates his soldiers, our liberation fighters. And so we do not endorse this kind of malpractice, because we know that even though we're at war, we do still respect the Geneva Convention, and we don't want to have individuals, instead of enjoying their freedom, to be facing the courts after we have a free Ambazonia. So clearly, to me, unless proven otherwise, these are rogue individuals or groups. And we know, of course, Atanganji is a popular fellow. He knows the terrain. It is easy for him to infiltrate and create parallel groups or counterfeit groups that mimic. And of course, everybody puts groups, everything under Amber Boys, which is a very should I say good, misleading in a way, because we of the interim government, our liberation were respected. We call them our Ambazonian Restoration Forces. We don't call them Amber Boys, because that umbrella Amber Boys covers a whole spectrum of thieves to God knows what. So yeah, I hope our people know how to differentiate.
That is the perfect place to move on to the
I don't
next
know if
topic.
you were getting me.
Yes,
we
got you completely. Yes. I said that is a perfect place to move on to the next topic. I think for our people's consumption, there's a difference between Amber Boys and ARFs. Amber Boys now have a negative connotation in my view, because when you say Amber Boys, generally you're thinking more of the rogues, the bandits, and all whatnot, and even La Republique agents. If you talk about ARF, you talk about those who are genuinely defending homeland. So that is really the difference we need to make sure people understand when using the word Amber Boys. Okay, so we're moving to the topic of Reverend Funky, and I'm going to read this statement that he put out in response to this kidnapping, as we go talk about who we think he is and why he's really not the shepherd of the people. He claims to be the moderator of the Presbyterian Church, but he's not a man of God. I'll just read what he wrote. Communicate on the forceful arrest of women mothers by armed separatists, Amber Boys, at Babanki in Tuba Subdivision, Mezam Division, Northwest Region, Cameroon, on 19th of May, 2023. Attention, national and international audiences. We can confirm the veracity of the viral video on social media of the forceful arrest, illegal detention, casting of aspersions, systematic torture, and dehumanization of women mothers at Babanki by armed separatists, Amber Boys, for the rejection of forceful imposition of monthly financial taxes on the population as a means of sponsorship of an illusory war of liberation. We can also confirm the use of live ammunition on 2 of those women currently hospitalized, thus precipitating leg amputation for one of them. This bestial act is just one amongst the litany of glory and horror stories of torture, killings, kidnapping for ransom, extended periods of forceful lockdowns, terror, and fear. We like to state that exercising strength on armless civilians is a shameful act of crowned cowardice, and it is unacceptable. Shouldn't we say it is laughable drama of an imaginary might of a non-existent state? We vehemently condemn the Babanki shame and horror on women mothers perpetrated by boys fit to be their own children. It is culturally and traditionally abominable to desecrate women. It is against Article 27, Chapter 4 of 4th Convention, Geneva Convention for the Protection of Civilians, Women and Children in particular, in times of war. Spiritually, it's outrageous. It is a sin and disobedience to the holy commandments of God, which specifically protect widows in particular and women in whole as the weaker sex. Last but not the least, it is a war crime to use live ammunition on armless civilians. The word of God authoritatively says life framed in the image of God is a gift from God and should be received and must be preserved as a sacred trust by all. Blood is life and it should not be spilled, lest, like the blood of Abel, it cries from the ground. We call on those concerned to unconditionally restore these women to their dignity and the right to decent life. Separatists should scrap all forceful taxes, levies, and extortions meted on the population in the name of liberation tax regime. If ordinary women who are expressing their right to protest and arrested and ruthlessly dealt with, where then is the superior Anglophone Saxon culture purportedly being fought for? It is now very evident that what started as a good idea, in quotes, has been hijacked by armed torturing gangsters and their war merchants in the diaspora. As a church, we preach against injustice and abuse of power by whosoever, so we cannot support a novel level of injustice and suffocation by those supposedly passing for liberators in the name of an all-Anglophone struggle. The international community should minute these crimes in their human rights records and bring charges on those who directly and indirectly are demonizing Cameroonians and abrogating human rights conventions. In the meantime, we call on Christians to be agents of peace and builders of common fraternity communities through prayers, civil participation, social compassion, and Christian fellowship. Dear Cameroonians, the dark night of evil seems to be long and unending. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. He is our stay and all. He says, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. John 16:33b. Therefore, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Romans 12:22. Signed, Reverend Funky Samuel Fomba, moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon. This is a lot. There are excerpts of this that are so it's just painful to read, especially coming from this person who thinks that he's a man of God, who is the leader of the Presbyterian Church of Cameroon. I will start with you, Dr. Lobadi.
Okay,
Should we
so
take it seriously?
Since he is a spiritual man, we have to go back to the Bible. When Jesus was here, there was a high priest on the seat of Moses. And that high priest said, it is expedient for one man to die for the sins of the nation, so the nation will be saved. That statement was true. The same spiritual leadership were those who rejected Jesus and preferred Barabbas and ensured that he was crucified. So what I mean is, you see that they were speaking with a forked tongue. He's saying the truth that one man, Jesus Christ, would die for the salvation of mankind, but at the same time, they reject Jesus Christ to be their savior. Now, that is the same thing I see from this so-called, I'm sorry for using the word, Reverend Funky, because this Reverend is consistent with who he is. Now, I do love details. I'm not sure I have all the details, but I love a lot of details. This is what I know about who that person is. He's acting consistent with who he is. He is originally from Menchum, but lied that he's from Akwaya, and that's how he got that position of Reverend, moderator of the Presbyterian Church. The position was supposed to rotate back and forth between the northern zone and southern zone, the way we describe it, or between the northern region and southern region, northwest region and southwest region, the way La Republique describes it. And there was the turn of the southwest region, and he lied that he's from Akwaya, which is in the southwest region, in order to take that position. So he's a fraud. That's number one. Number two, when he was a Presbyterian pastor in Quen, I think it was in Tabisi or someplace, the church members generated money to construct church infrastructure, and he embezzled it. Okay, misappropriated it for his own personal reasons. Then number three, we do know that La Republique has purposefully gone out to buy leaders of church denominations so that they will influence their congregations to remain faithful to La Republique, just like we have said. They have bought off chiefs to get the villagers to remain faithful to La Republique. They have bought off religious leaders. And from what I do know, they give the church leaders 3 million a month, which is literally nothing. If you divide it, it's about 250,000, or approximately 250,000 or 200,000 a month. So they give them 3 million a year and dash them some other things like cars. So he has been compromised. He has been bribed. He is serving the interest of La République du Cameroon. He is not serving the interest of even his congregation. And then he's done so many other things. He rigged elections within the Presbyterian Church. We used to be Presbyterians. We grew up in Tamalung. We branched off and opened the branch that went to Musang, which is Musang Presbyterian Church. And even my mother carried the group to our quarter where we live in Mancon and started a new big one day. We know the Presbyterian Church. It's not like we don't know what it is. So we know who this fellow is. He is a fraud. Anybody listening to him, you are drinking poison. So he's speaking with a forked tongue. He will quote some scriptures, but at the same time, he is serving the interest of La République du Cameroon. And so that's why he is calling our revolution and our honest and sincere quest for freedom, he's calling it an illusion. But he is deceiving himself. Just look at the world in general. He's speaking negatively about the Anglo-Saxon culture. I'm not speaking for the English or the Americans, but look at the world. Who controls the world, and either in education, in economic activity? Is it the Anglo-Saxon culture or the French? So if you want to serve the interests of the French, you're wasting your time. Go, if you are a scientific researcher, go online and research articles relevant to whatever you're working on. You will see extremely very little from French authors, but you will find a lot from English authors, plus or English-speaking authors. All the other nations on earth will have to publish all their articles in English if they want to have a wider audience. So if somebody is in China or Russia who did research on something, they have to translate it into English to get a wider audience. So he's just making a mockery of himself. The Anglo-Saxon culture is superior to the Franco, whatever culture you want to call it. But at the same time, that's not what it is. This is somebody who is just interested in his stomach. He's not serving the interest even of the church he's talking about. He's a fraud and is consistent with himself. As you know, they say that birds of the same feather flock together. Just as Biya and his ministers, whoever you want to call them, are frauds, he is aligned with them, just a fraud of who he is. That's how I would characterize it. I'm sorry, my words may sound too hard, but that's how I see who he is.
Thank you. Dr. Yaya, do you have anything to add to this? And I'm going to read something that was put out. It's on the internet about this man so that people really know who he is.
Yeah. I think Dr. Lobati has just nailed it. To me, listening to him quoting all these nice quotations from the Bible, which Satan is also good at, just boils down to hypocrisy. Because he's expecting the standards that he expects of the so-called separatists who are reacting to a problem that was caused by the oppressor. I don't know. I don't listen to him because I feel like spewing, to be honest. Does he set the same standards to the oppressor? Has he asked these questions to La Republique? He even goes as far as saying women, should be protected, and he invites the the human rights community to actually take note. I mean, this is so painful, coming from somebody from one of ours, so to say. So, what has he said? What about the women who have been killed by La Republique over the 7 years? The university girls who were pulled in mud, maimed, and how many women have been killed for in so many different brutal ways? Has he made any outings on this? Has he called the La Republique government to order? Has he invited the human rights community to actually look at these things? It, to me, just like what Dr. Lobati is saying, I mean, he has gotten an envelope, and I feel so sorry that people like this misuse the name of God and actually can discourage true Christians, true believers from actually believing in God. And I thank God that, they are so-called messengers, and people know, and it's even said that in the end times we'll have false messengers, we'll have false pastors and prophets. I am sorry, this is not a man of honor, this is not a man of reputation. If he is setting moral standards, then he should be fair, because God is a fair God. You cannot be talking to the victim and expecting the victim to meet up with standards that the oppressor doesn't. Where is the fairness in all this? So it's just a shame. It's a complete shame. Yeah.
Well said, Dr. Yeah. As a matter of fact, his history with our struggle goes back right even from 2021, when this article is online, where it says Southern Commons crisis, Buffaloes of Bali demand Monitor Funky Samuel resigns. Ambazonia Restoration Forces in Bali subdivision fighting for an independent state of Southern Commons, Ambazonia, have outlawed all activities of Presbyterian Church in Cameroon PCC. Over the weekend, the Amber fighters rolled out an audio message warning Christians to stay clear of all PCC houses of worship under pain of death. The Buffaloes of Bali, under the command of General Grandpa, now this is history, but we just wanted people to understand the relevance as far as this is concerned with this particular reverend. The disgraced Right Reverend Funky Samuel Fomba, moderator of PCC Church in Cameroon, reported that on Sunday, the 22nd of August 2021, they were duly informed that church services was in session in the Presbyterian Church Tangfong in Bali subdivision, the seat of the Bali Presbytery, when it was interrupted by gunshots. The pastor of the congregation, who doubles as the Presbyterian secretary for Bali Presbytery, the Reverend Voma Simon Moto, was on duty ministering to the Christians in church when suddenly there was a loud explosion outside close to the church house, followed by random gunshots. It was in the course of this reckless shooting we learned that bullets were rained on the church house, injuring the Reverend Voma Simon Monto on the arm and killing a female Christian of the PCC by name of Gross Tita Labit instantly in church. The corrupt PCC moderator went on to condemn in strongest terms this unnecessary and inhumane treatment and method on God's children by those who are supposed to protect them. We call on both parties to cease fire unconditionally, especially on Sundays, and that a proper investigation is conducted by the government and international bodies, and those responsible be brought to book. Southern Cameroon Self-Defense Group in Bali claims that the moderator and the parish pastor lied by not outrightly blaming Biya French Cameroon troop for the incident. After the burial of Grace on September 4th, Alpha fighters said that the PCC will only operate in Bali if the parish pastor of PCC, Tangfong, and the moderator resigns. So this incident was something that, after it happened, the moderator instantly blamed the separatists, and it was really an act carried out by Biya's agent and La Republique. I don't know whether you guys want to talk about this to really have people understand how dirty this reverend is.
So Maya, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Patience,
Yes.
would you mind if I call in?
Say that again.
Would you mind if I make a contribution?
Please go ahead.
This funky. I want to first of all thank Dr. Fred Lobati for the wonderful analogy he gave to us. And I was planning that we were going to have an, a broader conversation with just x-raying the way Christians, some Christians, I want to be precise, especially religious Christians in the Cameroons, and some church leaders like Funky are behaving. And I thank him for actually telling the world today who Funky is. It's really unfortunate. The Spirit of God, the Word of God says that. The Spirit of the Lord, that was when Jesus went into the synagogue, when he went back to his hometown and went into the synagogue. The Bible tells us that, and when he went there, it says, there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet of Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written. And he read it just to make a demonstration of what the gospel should be. And I like what Dr. Yaya said there. And let's look at whatever Funky is doing now, his involvement in politics, which I think is no problem. Let's look at it through scripture. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he had anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. There are versions there that call it the weak. It says, he had sent me to heal the brokenhearted, the victims, like Dr. Yaya, the brokenhearted there is the victims, the oppressed. Other versions of the Bible calls it the oppressed. To preach deliverance to the captive. We have a nation that has been held captive. We have our people that have been held captive. It is shocking that carolers will be stoned, will be shot dead in Boya, and Funky will not write a letter to the international community. It is shocking that colonial military is not, because tax is authorized. Scripture authorizes tax. When the Jews went to Jesus at one time and were questioning why they were being asked to pay tax, and he told them, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God. So taxation is not a crime. But now we're asking ourselves, when you have gendarmes oppressing people after they have paid their taxes, to pay dues to them that does not go to a treasury, which we would rather want to call a colonial treasury, that is a crime that Reverend Funky is silent about. Now, Reverend Funky doesn't see anything that in a generation like ours, that has about 75% a youthful population, is being oppressed and led by people, I'll call them fossil men. In Bia's government, it is rare to find anyone who is even in the 60s. You have men who are at their 70s. Bia himself should be at least 100, because I know he celebrated his 84th birthday like 5 times before he went now, and we hear he's about 90. So Reverend Funky really, as a religious leader, because I don't want to call him a Christian leader, he's a religious leader, and I like the way Dr. Fred puts it. You saw religious leaders would actually read what scripture said and did not understand the revelation of it. Reverend Funky, as a religious leader, has the audacity to talk on a people, like Yaya says that he's wanting us to meet some standards, if at all. Now, so Reverend Funky, in his propagandist mindset, and for the role that he has been employed by Yaoundé to pay, the way he got himself, and he's calling himself Reverend Funky, is trying to tell the world the ills of the volunteers that are defending us at the home front, and really doesn't. Because if Reverend Funky had for once or twice opened up to the world to show them what Cameroon is doing to our people, if Reverend Funky came out to spoke against the girls that were raped in Boya, robbed in mud in front of broad daylight. If Reverend Funky said a word, that would have been understood. If Reverend Funky spoke about the people, now we have the fallen, or in fact the destroyed Unity Warriors. In fact, the corrupted group that was formed by people like Reverend Funky, because I know he has his own Amber Boys too. You know, some of them are sent out by Reverend Funky. When people like Reverend Funky have Amber Boys, that's a fact. Now, when we see No Pity's parents and families are still being oppressed as we speak. No Pity, unfortunately, did not listen to nobody. And today his life has been wasted. Now, Reverend Funky, instead of Reverend Funky speaking that Cameroon should stop oppressing a poor girl simply because the girl is a mother of a child that is fathered by Reverend No Pity, against human rights, against international law, even against their laws. They kept that girl in a solitary confinement for more than a year, and then did what they called the libere. That means you have served your time, because they don't want anything that's going to come back to them. As we speak, the family of No Pity is under oppression, and that's why Shina Rambo, who is also short-sighted, has given in. So we're expecting religious leaders like Funky to speak the ease of the Cameroon government. Why am I getting very vexed with this? Is because as a religious authority, the war extends the word of a person like Reverend Funky, and it is taken into consideration when the international community is making human rights reports.
Right.
So Reverend Funky is not ignorant. As a corrupt man that found his way via a fraudulent election within the church, just imagine it. That a man who embezzled church money for himself, you look at his stomach, is really huge. You know, a man who has truth. You know, Reverend Funky is not ignorant of the fact that what he is doing today is aimed at sabotaging a genuine movement. But I think he has failed. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I wouldn't have slept today if I did not express myself like this.
And you did it so well, Paddy. Thank you so much. Back to Dr. Lobadi and then Dr. Yaya.
Well, I don't really know what to add. Basically, this when you were adding more details like what happened in Bali, that is consistent with him. You know, he cried a crocodile tear when in 2017 our people came out and marched in Boya. The Presbyterian Christians dressed up in, you know, the usual Ashwabi, let me call it Ashwabi, and marched to his office. He came out and put his hands like this on his face and cried a crocodile tear and said that the eagle has landed. Those were his words. Remember, I'm a man of details. And people thought that he was with us. No, he was not with us. You know, Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. That means when Reagan signed an agreement with Gorbachev to disarm the world, when the whole world was afraid of nuclear war in the mid-1980s, and Gorbachev came up in Reykjavik, Ronald Reagan said, trust that the Russians will disarm, but go and verify if they have disarmed. So what I'm trying to say is that the fact that somebody seems to be with you today and shares crocodile tears, keep your eyes wide open. Reverend Coffee, Reverend whatever he calls his name, Funky, is a good example. He pretended to be with us that day. He drove in a Mercedes and the Christians surrounded him and led him like a president or like a god. And today he's come out with his full colors to show that he was not with us. He only took advantage of the day to be celebrated. And so he's not one of us. He's not really a Christian. He's just unfortunately occupying that office. I think people should not listen to him. If you love yourself, if you want to go to heaven, don't listen to Reverend Funky. Believe in God. Read your Bible. I believe that God will lead you to listen to the right persons. I'm not advertising any particular church. But please, that man is not your pastor. He's spewing out poison to you.
Absolutely. We're going to move into the last topic, but I just want to say that a few weeks back we had on the horizon Cry Justice, which was a publication by the Presbyterian Church Reverend Awasom, the moderator in those days, stood for justice, stood for the truth, defending the people in the 90s, in the early 90s. I think they're probably turning in their graves right now, seeing what the current moderator is doing in the PCC. Because if you think about what happened 30 years ago compared to what is happening to our people now, and they were able to stand and defend the people and address the government without fear or favor, address the government of their injustices, and compared to what this so-called leader of the Presbyterian Church is doing now, is really dark night versus day. You can really contrast so vividly that they are really at different ends of the ladder. One is really at the bottom and the other one is at the top. So as we conclude this, we just want to give this message to Reverend Funky that there will never be peace without justice. And he, as a man of God, should know that. And there will never be peace without half-baked truths that in the end, if he wants to be relevant in this quest and make himself someone that we can come back and say, yes, you stood for your people, then he should really go and re-examine what he's been doing. Let him go back to the archives and read Cry Justice, what his predecessors did compared to what he's doing right now. And he will find that he's really a disgrace to the Presbyterian Church. Dr. Lobadi already said that he started as a fraud. He's been who he is. Maybe it is in his blood. He cannot help himself. If that's the case, let us do what we are doing as Ambazonians and not set us back with all his writing. As Paddy said, when he puts these things on paper for the audience of the international community, it is basically to hurt our cause. And he will not succeed because the truth is on our side. Dr. There any final thought on this? And then we'll talk about Youth Day coming up in Belgium.
In Germany, you mean? Yeah, I think we've exhausted the topic, and our people actually know these strongholds. I see them like, what do you call them? Principalities, although they seem to occupy places in the Holy Church of God. And so people, Dr. Lobadi said it, in as much as we have leaders, we have pastors or priests who are meant to guide us, it's your responsibility to develop a personal relationship with God. And we have, his word is written. It's not only restricted to pastors or priests. So don't let yourself be manipulated. Don't allow yourself to be used by people who have politicized the work of God. So to be is a disgrace to mankind. And he should just not. I can't even call him reverend. I don't know what to call him, because when I even just said, let me Google the role of church in the community. The church is expected to support people who are going through difficulties. I mean, as basic as that. There's of course more to that. So has he asked the question, even if he's referring to separatists and holding them responsible for this act, why did the separatists come in the first place? What happened? What triggered that? So that's the whole bunch of hypocrisy. We don't need to go in the details. To me, the church, it is time for a revolution to start in the churches. And that's not only, the Presbyterian Church. Any church whose leader does not actually stand on the virtues of God, should not be respected. I know it sounds, and that's not to say that we should stop being God-fearing. And that is different on adoring human beings or adoring God. So he's not a God like Dr. Lobati said. So please, if he's leading you in the wrong direction, quit following him. Just quit. He's a businessman. He's a politician. He has taken envelopes and he doesn't care about your well-being. Because when young boys and young girls are being, arrested arbitrarily, he has never stood up to say this is wrong. He doesn't stand up for the rights for your interests. So who is he leading to? Where? To hell? He's leading the wrong crowd or the right crowd to hell. So please stop following him. Mape, I'm done. I'm not sure if I'm still connected.
No, yes, I see you. So we're going to move to the different topic, but this is a final message we want to give to Reverend Funky that first thing, Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians, the people that he called armed separatists, did not declare war. President Biya declared war on our people. And number two, that Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians want justice, peace to end, so that we can live as good neighbors with La République du Cameroon. And that Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians think that the best way to get this is for a negotiated settlement on the table where La République and the interim government and the Southern Cameroonians sit on the table as equal partners and solve this permanently. We also want to let him know that Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians did not cross their boundary, their territory that was given to them at time of independence, but La République has, and that's why we are having this problem. And finally, we want to let him know that the Biya that he supports has the power to pull his military away from our area. If Biya that he supports is able to pull his military away from our area, then we will not be fighting the military, and there will be peace automatically in our land because we will have control of our land and no military, no colonial military attacking our people. And finally, that this war is really an international affair. It's not an internal affair because if you've listened to this guy speak, he is fond of using the word one Cameroon. One Cameroon. He always says one Cameroon. He emphasizes one Cameroon. We want to let him know that it's not one Cameroon. And he knows that. He knows the truth. There are two Cameroons. There's La République du Cameroon and there's the former British Southern Cameroons, which if he wants to, he can call it West Cameroon if he wants. But we had our independence on October 1st, 1961, and La République had its independence on January 1st, 1960. So that's our final message to him, that he needs to go back and examine the truth and stick with the truth. As a man of God, the truth shall set him free. The truth shall set all of us free. Thank you so much. Now, Dr. Yaya, this is where you come on to talk to us mainly about this big day coming up in Berlin, Germany. Please let us know what we need to do to support it and what we need to do. I wish I could just get on the buy a ticket and fly and be there in the next few hours.
We miss you.
But go ahead.
I know.
Let us know about it.
Yes, we do miss you because that brings back the memory of the ASSC one, the very first all Ambazonia strategic syncretizing. I don't know what the word means anyway. Conference, 2018. That was. It was actually a great reunion, and wow, we missed that. So we're hoping that we can re-energize through this launch. It's actually, sorry, not apparently. I'm sorry, I'm quite tired. I've been on the road for long hours, so bear with me. Yeah, so the Department of Youth and Sports and Cultural Activities, which is the DYSCA, led by Commander Joe Bashi, is actually launching that department by actually organizing a cultural event. So it has a two-tier intent. One, to launch the department, to kickstart activities and the hope is that this is going to go all across Europe so that we can have activities every year moving from one country to another. And that's one way of maintaining the momentum or building or mobilizing, And the second one is actually starting to plan towards our Independence Day, October 1, 2023, which is going to be a big bang. And we're expecting that every Ambazonian, Southern Cameroonian across the globe should be heading towards the center point, Germany, on October 1. So we want to start planning early enough in order to have a very successful and resounding Independence Day. Yeah, so what do we expect? What will people expect if they attend this conference? It actually starts tomorrow, Saturday, the 3rd of June, 2023. And we have actually two sections to it. The morning program, which involves actually sports activities, as the department is actually called Department of Youth and Sports. So we're going to have football matches and other forms of other arts of sport. After which, or alongside, this is just a slight addition, we're also going to have like a little health screening, just checking. And I wish Dr. Lubati could make himself available, just fly across and join us. We just want to do a little health check blood pressure, and their weight and their height, and just listen to their heart and their lungs, and just do that kind of basic screening and give some advice, because of course we know that we want the healthy Amazonia, and a healthy country is a wealthy one. So that's the first part, the sports activities. And then the evening is going to be the cultural evening, where we're going to have a display of cultural dances, as well as our traditional plates, food, and we'll all be in our traditional regalia. So it's intended to be a kickstart, of the old system that we used to have, the big gatherings that we had, which was a real encouragement, especially after having gone through the perils, or should I say, the pain of the coup plotters. So we just want to revive the whole, gathering again and get to meet each other. I'm sitting right here with actually the director of the DYSCA, because we're already in Berlin, Comrade Joe Bashir, who can be on screen. I'm actually in one of the comrades' houses one of the comrades' house, yeah, in Berlin, somewhere, so the preparation is going on. The wives are cooking, so it's great. We're inviting everybody. Those who have not made up their mind to come, please turn around and make that decision. Don't think about money. I just met Director Joe Bashi. I didn't even know that we knew each other. When I saw him, I said, "Oh, I know this face," and he says, "I know this face." But somehow in the Zoom, you don't kind of have that feeling. But we've come face to face. It is actually a different feeling. I want to encourage everybody around Berlin, around Germany, even in Europe. You can still catch last minute into Berlin. You're not going to miss out much if you leave tonight or even early tomorrow. And for those who cannot make it, please join us. And you can support the planning of this with your financial contribution. I think we have the payment links on most of our fora. So I think that's the highlight. Have I missed out anything? No.
Oh, I don't think so. Dr. Yaya, now that you're with
Yes, sir.
Daddy Joe, you're with Daddy Joe in Berlin as we speak, and the organizing committee, and you people are already in Jokain. And in fact, I know the ambience ahead of tomorrow. I like to ask some questions, and I may like him to come close since he doesn't want to have his face, and he could just respond to some questions, which I asked Dr. Tom Dola on Thursday. Was it Wednesday or Thursday? No, you don't need to move your camera. He doesn't need to come since he doesn't want to show his face. Show his face. But I would like to hear his voice. Maybe he wants to talk to Amazonia. We understand he's doing sports and youth. Amazonians are not just looking forward to having a football match where they play among themselves. Is he considering that he can constitute an Amazonian national team that will represent Amazonia? Maybe we can invite a friendly nation or whatever to play with us 1st October. Is that a project he's considering?
Thank you so much, Director Paddy, and thank you for giving us the chance to express ourselves, especially at this moment where all Amazonians are turning their faces and their eyes to Berlin, where we are kickstarting an event which is going to be something for the whole nation. And as I say, kickstarting because We want to replicate it in the US. We want to replicate it. These are places which are already in place. They are putting their teams in place to replicate it in South Cyprus and other parts of the world. So this is going to be a screening session where we're going to select our national team. Know that we're already picking players as the games are going on. So there's a high possibility that by 1st October we might be playing an international friendly with neighboring and friendly countries. So it is a project that is in the pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to that. I hope I'm not going to be too old to be choosing. Um, uh, Dr. Patience, I don't want to hijack your program, but I thought that was necessary, please.
Yeah, that was a good question. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Yaya, for
That
coming to
was
share with
nice.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Lubadi, do you have any question to ask Dr. Yaya?
No, just no. She knows we want to reassure her how much we love her. We were able to meet with Dr. Yaya, I think like 3, 4 months ago, and I gave her a hug. So we love
Yes.
her and what she does. Want to reassure you that. We thank. I'm happy that we met here. Remember, we are all medical people. You have a great
Yes.
program, Health and Wealth. Maybe you can strengthen it as time provides. Maybe we can educate our people so they
Yes.
know that they don't get good programs from CITV or even Equinox or whatever programs are down there. But when they listen to us, they're enriched because health is wealth. We give them the
Health is
truth
wealth.
about health. I realized that so many people live in fear about their health. So many people live in a lot of misinformation, a lot of disinformation about health issues. Some are frightened because somebody said something about their health and live in constant fear, which makes them sick when they're not physically, bodily sick. And that can be an opportunity to explore several programs that can educate them and improve their well-being. So I encourage that program. Let it get stronger and stronger. That's what I would say. But I want to reassure you again that we love you. Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dr.
Thank you
Yaya.
so
You
much,
know
Doc.
what?
And thank
Now, I was going to say that
yes.
this invitation to everybody that is in the vicinity of Berlin, please make sure that you attend
Yeah.
and participate in this great event that is coming up in a few hours from now. I mean, it's open to everyone. You don't have to be young. You know, they said youth is only in the mind because sometimes as I get older, I'm going to be celebrating my big 6-0 in a few months from now, but I still feel youthful. I still think that I can do the things that I used to do 30 years ago. So it's all in the
You
mind.
do.
So it doesn't matter how old you
Yeah.
are, please go there and have fun with the people. Okay, everybody's invited, right, Dr. Yaya?
Yes.
That's so correct, Mape. Again, even though we say Department of Youth and Sports, it's not limited to just youth because we're still trying to lay the foundation in preparation for a great nation. So we are putting and especially going through culture, which is one of our greatest riches. So everyone, we need all hands on deck, to put that ground, the foundation, and so everybody is most welcome. And of course, when we get to Ambazonia, hopefully, the Minister of Youth and Sports hopefully is going to be a young person and not a geriatric person like we have in the case of the oppressor. Anyway, again, I'm just pleading with everybody. We have many of us in Europe. You can have just a direct flight, 45 minutes from most of the centers, the capitals, to Berlin. Still think about it. Tonight is a long time till tomorrow. So join us, or at least contribute and financially and morally to make sure that this is a success. Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you, Mapi.
So we're going to be
And thank you, Dr. Lubati, for those words of encouragement.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to thank both of you for being on the horizon today, the voice of the Amber Woman. We hope that our viewers, our listeners have really understood what will happen around these 30 women that were allegedly arrested. And we want you to understand this personality that we call a moderator, that he's really not doing what is expected of a man of God, and that those who are underneath him, the different pastors, the different religious leaders in their churches, you need to hold him accountable, because some of us cannot hold him accountable, but you as parishioners can hold him accountable, so that either he is quiet about our liberation quest, or he does what is right and truthful and defend the people and defend the oppressed as what is expected of godly people. So I want to thank you all for being always on the horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman. First of all, we apologize for starting late today. We'll do our best to start on time next time. So without much ado, I want to thank you again, Dr. Yaya and Dr. Lobadi, for being here as we end the show. We always say, long live the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, short live the struggle for international recognition, because we are bound to be the 55th nation of Africa anytime soon. And it's only up to us and not up to anyone else to make this happen. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
See that you can if I know that can. Stylish, cool, A-list. See that you can if I know that can. Oh, one day, and you will see that you can if I know that can. Oh, one day, and you will see that you can if I know that can. If only you knew how great you are. Every time you try so hard to be maybe a great pillar of your country, or to be a change maker of the world, then I don't think you'll ever run away. Even when your world has broken down, you should always turn and face your fears. For what doesn't kill you makes you strong. Just keep interested in whatever you do. Listen to your heart and believe like a fool. For however humble, it is a real possession in the changing fortune of time. Oh my brother, one day you would understand what used to be misunderstood, and you would see that you can if another can. Oh my sister, one day you would understand what used to be misunderstood, and you would see that you can if another can. Oh, one day, and you would see that you can if another can. Oh, one day, and you would see that you can if another can. Oh, one day, and you will see that you can if another can. Oh, one day, and you will see that you can if another can. Stylish, cool.
You are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman, exclusively on ABC Amber TV.